at Blizzard. I would like to welcome Josh Ehlers on the stage.
Just going to make sure this is working, and it seems to be, so.
All right,
Yeah.
Okay, before I start, I want to throw out a content warning. My talk does talk about suicide a bit, so if it's a sensitive subject, I apologize. Also, hello everyone, how are you? Okay, so my story begins one night in June of 2017. I was deep into a particularly bad bout of depression and had declined to go out and socialize with my girlfriend and my friends. Instead, I stayed at home alone and lumped around our apartment. After lying in bed doing nothing for a while, I opened the door to our third floor balcony and stepped outside. I stared at the plants below me, our garden on the balcony, the hummingbird feeder that sat above the railing, and everything else that brought good memories while I was out there. All the while, depression screamed at me to jump. I thought of my parents. I thought of everyone I've met since starting at Blizzard, of friends, new and old. And I thought of Sam, my girlfriend, who would be the first to suffer from my decision. Eventually, I muzzled the anger and hate rattling around my head and went back inside. The first thing I saw was our little chihuahua, Hootie. He was waiting so patiently for me to come back inside, tail wagging and everything. Right there, right in front of me, was somebody that needed me. It was evidence that I was important. Unfortunately, my savior, our little chihuahua, passed away a month ago, but I'll always remember him as one of the reasons I'm still here. My struggle with mental health started when my parents separated around age 9. All the yelling, the fighting, and the times I was put in the middle of it all planted the seeds of full-blown depression. I needed to focus on something to push those bad feelings away. I once described this to my child psychologist as having a laser grid in the back of my head, that when I filled it with good thoughts, the bad thoughts got pushed back and vaporized. Completely healthy, normal behavior. I found video games fit the bill for distraction better than anything else I tried. Hell, they still work better than anything else that I tried. After graduating high school in 2002, I got my first gaming PC and my first taste of MMOs. I'd go through several until April of 2005 when I bought World of Warcraft, a game that would change the rest of my life. After starting college in 2006, I used WoW to become friends with other students from various types of backgrounds. They even got me to go Horde for the first time. This was a wonderful period of actual happiness that gradually faded away after I graduated, as I lost touch with almost every one of those friends. Several years, several part-time jobs, and a couple WoW expansions later, I got a contract job as a technical writer for a software development company. I finally had what felt like a career. I quit WoW and studied the ins and outs of technical writing, hoping to get my life back on track. Spoiler warning, it didn't work. Turns out depression likes to lay in wait for a prime moment to strike. Feeling confident in my self-control, I resubbed with patch 5.2. Mists also marked my glorious return to the Alliance.
Yeah.
And this time I wouldn't let escapism get the best of me. I was strong. I could control my playtime. Then my contract didn't get renewed. Oh, hello again, depression. After months of struggling to wake up, let alone leave the house, sending applications, marathoning WoW every day, a friend took me to BlizzCon 2013. Less than a month later, I checked the Blizzard career site and saw a posting for a technical writer. According to the recruiter I talked to at BlizzCon, that was a rare happening. I organized my materials in record time and sent my application off the same day. A couple phone interviews and 3 months of waiting followed. I was feeling good about my chances. To make it so far in the Blizzard process had to be, oh, they closed the job requisition. I snapped. I hit rock bottom. I spent every night crying myself to sleep, and I did my best to never leave the house. Then, one Friday afternoon, I got a call from Blizzard saying the position was still open, just under a different team. And was I still interested? More interviews, more waiting, more cautious optimism, than a job offer. I think I'm going to turn it down, I said to a few friends. I know nobody out in Orange County. On top of that, I still have a car loan and a mountain of student loan debt to worry about. With the cost of the move and the rent. Are you crazy? They all yelled.
Yes.
Moving to California meant starting over from scratch. I had whatever money remained in my bank account and the promise of parental support if I needed it, but otherwise I had nothing else going for me. Longing for some sort of interaction with others, I hopped on my long-latent Twitter account. That's at Squirlock, by the way, SQ Warlock, if you're interested to follow me. I started to tweet regularly, hoping to become a big name in the Blizzard community. For months, I yelled into the void. It was fun, and it was something to do while fighting off the depression. Then, I started interacting with other Blizzard employees, and my yelling moved just shy of void adjacent. Then, in March of 2015, a Blizzard employee with a large following shared my name as a person of interest. Suddenly, the community I'd been fighting to join reached out, pulled me in, and piled on top of me. Twitter suddenly became more than an addiction, but an active part of my life. A lot of new, interesting people followed me over the next couple of weeks, but one of these followers stood out over the rest, especially after she slid into my DMs one Friday night. We learned a lot about each other over the next few days. She lived in Vegas, she owned a house, she had a little old man chihuahua, and she was single. In May, she drove down for our first date. In September, she moved to California permanently. Life was great. I was happy with my job, I had plenty of friends, and I had a wonderful girlfriend to share my life with. Good things never last, though. Over the next year, I struggled to adjust to our living situation. I'd slip into severe depressive moods and had bouts of mild agoraphobia. Sam's love and her insistence on seeing me happy was enough to lift my head above water for air, but I'd quickly sink back under. I began to wonder what else could go wrong. From late 2016 through early 2017, there was a project at work that dominated my life. Normally, I can leave work at work, but this project dominated my thoughts at home too. This triggered an avalanche of stress and illness, and also exacerbated the underlying pain my depression was causing Sam. I saw her start to suffer because of my broken brain. Eventually it all became too much to bear, so one night in June of 2017, I stepped out onto a balcony. Over 20 years of living with depression almost led to a suicide attempt. I needed to get help. Something had to change. With Sam and my closest friends behind me, I started down recovery road. Step 1, talk to our wonderful on-site therapist. She helped me move on to step 2, meet with an out-of-office psychiatrist. After a lot of anxiety, I worked up the courage to meet one for a medical evaluation. I was put on bupropion, and within a couple of weeks, I was happy. I was on the mend. I saw a light at the end of the tunnel. Time for step 3, regular therapy. My brain pills helped with the depression, but my anxiety lingered. Through therapy, I learned new methods for dealing with it, grounding, meditation, and so on. Yet I still waited for that light at the end of the tunnel to get closer. It never did. At the advice of my therapist, I went back to step 4, that same psychiatrist that I saw before. After the second consultation, I added citalopram to my pill cocktail. A week later, I burst through the end of the proverbial tunnel at warp speed and experienced pure happiness for the first time in a long time. Around this time, my newfound clarity and self-confidence led me to search for answers to a long-buried question over my sexual identity. All of my romantic relationships had been with women, so I had to be 100% straight, right? Well, as it turns out, no. I thought back to 6th grade when I developed a legitimate crush on a couple of male 8th graders. I was incredibly confused. I didn't know what my sexuality was at the time. And since I definitely had crushes on more girls than boys, these feelings had to be a mistake. Through high school, I'd catch myself fantasizing about guys in and out of my dreams. Another mistake. Then, while in college, in a much more diverse environment, I talked to people that have had different lives, different experiences, that made me realize that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't 100% straight. Many, many years of self-reflection followed. but I still didn't want to admit to anyone that I was having these thoughts. Then I got introduced to our wonderful and diverse Blizzard community. I talked to people that were completely open about who they were, and I envied that. Thanks to this wonderful group, I learned more about sexual and gender studies than I ever could while studying by myself. It turns out my previous romantic attractions to cisgender men, transgender men, women, and non-binary folks weren't mistakes. To finally be honest with others, I had to be honest with myself. So, during this year's Pride Month, I came out as bisexual. During the past 4 years, I've found an unlikely support system in the Blizzard community. I've learned to be honest with my own struggles about mental health and identity. I've joined special interest groups both on and off campus, and I've become more dedicated to causes like Blizzard's own diversity and inclusion program. I hope that I can inspire even one person to be as honest with themselves as I was, and to see them as happy as I am right now. Without Blizzard in our community to lift me up, to push me to be better, I never would have seized this opportunity to be on stage. I owe my life to my fellow Blizzard employees and to the friends I've made in the worldwide community. You, all of you, are the reason I'm here. You're why I didn't climb over that railing. You're why I went back inside. Now, I finally have a chance to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being there for me when I was at my lowest. I love all of you, and thank you.
Let's see, Josh.